All right, folks, ready for a deep dive today into some serious geopolitics,
Yeah.
the kind that makes headlines and shapes the global power dynamics. And, this is especially crucial for those of you out there prepping for the UPSC mains exams.
Absolutely.
We're talking about a potential realignment,
Right.
between the U.S. and Russia,
Right.
and what that could mean for the, global balance of power, especially for a country like India.
Yeah.
So our source for this deep dive is this really sharp opinion piece from the Indian Express.
Okay.
And let me tell you, it is packed with insights that could seriously give you an edge in those exam essays.
I bet.
The author argues that we're seeing a major shift happening like right before our eyes.
Mm.
And to really understand it, we need to kind of think like the big players themselves.
Interesting.
So what's fascinating here is that the author is highlighting this concept of agency.
Yeah, agency.
Which basically means that powerful nations like the U.S. and Russia,
Right.
they have the ability to make choices that actually shape global events.
Yeah, it's not just about reacting, It's about actively influencing the game.
Exactly.
And sometimes even at the expense of other countries.
So it's not just about understanding history, but it's also about understanding how these big players are actually trying to write the next chapter.
Exactly. The author actually uses the example of Ukraine, describing it as a doormat of history. It's a harsh phrase,
Yeah.
but it really underscores the risks for countries that get caught in the crossfire of these power struggles.
Wow, that's a powerful image. Thinking about this from a UPSC perspective, how could a student actually use this concept of agency in their mains answer writing?
Oh, absolutely.
Could you give us a specific example?
Yeah, let's say you're tackling a question about India's foreign policy in the context of this changing global order.
Okay.
You could analyze how India can exercise its own agency
Right.
by leveraging its relationships with these different power centers, the US, Russia, China, to advance its own interests, like securing energy resources or navigating regional security challenges. It's about understanding that India doesn't have to be a passive player.
Right.
It can actively shape its own destiny on the world stage.
That's incredibly helpful, I think, for our listeners prepping for those exams.
Yeah.
It's not just about memorizing facts,
Right.
but about understanding the motivations and strategies of these major players.
For sure.
The article also talks about Europe kind of being caught off guard by these shifts.
Yeah.
What's the takeaway there?
Well, the author suggests that Europe might have been clinging to these outdated assumptions,
Okay.
living in this world of make-believe where the old rules still applied. And this is a crucial lesson, I think, for anyone analyzing international events.
Yeah.
Don't rely on static thinking.
Right.
You have to be adaptable and recognize that the global landscape is constantly evolving.
So it's like they were playing checkers while the game had already shifted to chess.
Precisely. And for those of you preparing for the UPSC,
Yeah.
that's a key skill to develop the ability to anticipate change, to understand the motivations of different actors, and to see the bigger picture.
Okay, so we've got big powers making these bold moves.
Yeah.
Europe perhaps missing the memo.
Yeah.
This idea of agency being crucial for countries like India.
Absolutely.
But let's get to the heart of it.
Yeah.
What's driving this potential U.S.-Russia realignment?
Right.
Is it really about countering China, as some suggest?
Well, the article doesn't explicitly state that,
Okay.
but it does hint at this broader strategic calculation on the part of the U.S. Remember, we're talking about an opinion piece here.
Right.
So the author is presenting their interpretation of events.
Okay.
What's important is that you, as a UPSC aspirant, can analyze these different perspectives and form your own informed opinion.
So it's like we're getting a glimpse into this high-stakes game of global poker, and we're trying to figure out everyone's bluff.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
And that's exactly the kind of critical thinking that will serve you well in those exams.
This is already shedding so much light on the complexities of international relations. And speaking of complexities, let's not forget about the other major player in this global power game, China.
Right.
The article focuses mainly on the U.S. and Russia. But how does China fit into this evolving world order?
That's an excellent question.
Yeah.
And one that deserves its own deep dive.
Okay.
China's rise as a global power is undeniable.
Yeah, sure.
And its actions are having a profound impact on the geopolitical landscape.
Right.
We'll definitely delve into that in more detail in the next part of our discussion.
That sounds fascinating. So for all you UPSC enthusiasts out there, be sure to stick around as we unpack China's role in this new world order.
Definitely.
We'll analyze its ambitions, its strategies, and its implications for India.
It's going to be good.
And remember, this is more than just prepping for exams.
Right.
It's about understanding the forces that are shaping our world.
Absolutely.
Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into current affairs.
Yes, please.
And if you have any burning questions, drop them in the comments below.
We'll answer them.
We're here to help you navigate the complexities of the world, one insightful episode at a time.
One episode at a time.
We'll be back soon with part 2, where we'll tackle China's rise and its impact on the global balance of power.
Looking forward to it.
Until then, keep those brains buzzing.
Keep them buzzing. Welcome back, everyone. So as promised, we're shifting our focus to the east, to the rising dragon that's reshaping the global landscape, China.
It's fascinating how the article only briefly touches upon China.
Right.
Yet its presence looms large over this entire discussion, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. The article's focus on the U.S. and Russia doesn't diminish the fact that China is a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
I mean, it's actively shaping the geopolitical chessboard through its economic prowess, military expansion, and these ambitious initiatives like the Belt and Road.
Speaking of the Belt and Road Initiative, could you break that down for our listeners, especially those gearing up for UPSC?
Sure.
How does this massive project fit into China's overall strategy?
So think of the Belt and Road as like a modern-day Silk Road. This network of infrastructure projects spanning continents connecting China to the world.
Wow.
It's a bold move to establish economic dominance, secure access to resources, and project influence across Eurasia and beyond. For UPSC aspirants, understanding the Belt and Road's implications for global trade, regional alliances, and even potential conflict zones is crucial.
So it's not just about building roads and bridges.
Right.
It's about China strategically positioning itself at the center of a new global order.
Precisely. And that's where things get even more interesting when we consider the U.S.-Russia dynamic.
Okay.
Some analysts believe that the U.S. sees a closer relationship with Russia as a way to counter China's growing influence.
So it's like a geopolitical triangle.
Yeah.
With each player trying to outmaneuver the other.
Exactly. It's a delicate balancing act. And India, with its own aspirations on the world stage, needs to navigate this complex landscape very carefully.
That brings us back to that crucial concept of agency that we discussed earlier. How can India assert its own agency amidst these shifting power dynamics?
Well, India has a long history of strategic autonomy. Of maintaining balanced relationships with various powers. So leveraging its partnerships with the U.S., Russia, and even China, while prioritizing its own interests will be key. For instance, India could collaborate with Russia on defense technology, while simultaneously engaging with the U.S. on trade and investment. It's about skillfully playing the game without becoming anyone's pawn.
That's a brilliant insight for our UPSC aspirants.
I hope so.
It's not about picking sides. It's about playing a smart, strategic game. To secure India's place in this evolving world order.
Exactly. And that requires a deep understanding, not just of current events, but also the historical context, the cultural nuances and the economic interests that drive these complex relationships.
That's why we're here to unpack these complex issues and empower our listeners with the knowledge and analytical skills they need to not only ace those UPSC exams, but also understand the world around them.
Exactly.
Now we've talked about China's ambitions and its potential impact on the U.S.-Russia dynamic. But what are the specific implications for India?
That's where things get even more interesting, and we'll dive into that in just a moment.
Okay, so we're back and ready to tackle the big question. What does China's rise mean for India?
It's a topic that's definitely going to pop up in those UPSC exams.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's break it down. The implications are multifaceted, to say the least. We have to consider, the economic, political, and security dimensions, all within the context of this evolving multipolar world.
Okay, so let's start with the economic angle. China's already a major trading partner for India, but also a competitor in a lot of sectors. How does this dynamic play out as China's global influence grows?
Well, it's a delicate balancing act. On one hand, India can benefit from increased trade and investment from China. But on the other hand, there's the risk of becoming overly dependent on the Chinese economy, which could create some vulnerabilities. This is where the concept of strategic autonomy becomes really critical.
So it's about finding that sweet spot, engaging with China economically without compromising India's own interests and independence.
Exactly. India needs to diversify its economic partnerships,
Okay.
strengthen its domestic manufacturing capabilities,
Right.
and focus on innovation to remain competitive on the global stage.
Yeah.
This is something UPSC aspirants should definitely keep in mind when they're analyzing India's economic policy.
Now let's shift gears to the security front.
Right.
China's growing military presence in the region, especially in the Indian Ocean,
Yeah,
is a major concern for India, right?
absolutely. The border disputes,
Right.
the competition for influence in South Asia,
Yeah.
and the broader geopolitical rivalry between China and the U.S.,
Hmm.
all of these factors contribute to this complex security environment for India.
The article doesn't delve into the specifics of the India-China relationship,
Right.
but it's clearly a key piece of this whole geopolitical puzzle.
Yeah, for sure.
What are some key takeaways for our UTSE audience on this front?
First, understanding the historical context of the India-China relationship is crucial.
Okay.
The border disputes, the 1962 war, the ongoing tensions, these are all important background information. Second, analyzing India's current approach, which involves a combination of military modernization,
Right.
diplomatic engagement,
Yeah.
and strategic partnerships, is essential.
Okay.
And finally, thinking critically about potential future scenarios.
Like what?
How might the relationship evolve? What are the potential flashpoints? And how can India best safeguard its interests? These are all questions that a UPSC aspirant should be pondering.
This has been an incredibly insightful deep dive into a topic that's both complex and constantly evolving.
It has been.
For our listeners preparing for the UPSC, what would you say are like the 3 most important things to remember from our discussion today?
I'd say first, understand the concept of agency and how big powers like the US, Russia, and China are shaping the world order.
Yeah.
Second, analyze India's position in this new landscape, focusing on its strategic autonomy
Right.
and its approach to navigating these complex relationships.
Yeah.
And third, don't just memorize facts, think critically. Connect the dots and develop your own informed perspectives on these global issues.
Couldn't have said it better myself. We've covered a lot of ground today, folks, from shifting alliances to rising powers
We have.
and the implications for India's place in the world.
Yeah.
We hope this deep dive has given you some valuable insights for those UPSC exams and beyond.
It was a pleasure being here.
A huge thank you to the Indian Express for the thought-provoking article that sparked this discussion.
Yeah, great article.
If you haven't already, check it out for an even deeper understanding of this fascinating topic. And to all our listeners, thank you for joining us on this journey of knowledge and discovery.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit us with your questions in the comments. We'll be back tomorrow with a brand new deep dive, so stay tuned. Until then, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those minds sharp.